Okay, hi everybody. Today I want to talk about orange. Um, but first, let's go back a teeny bit. This was just black, black paint plus white, and this is a watercolor technique where the pigmentation is darker because actually it starts here, darkest because it has less water, and each one of these little marks that I made is going back like that and getting lighter because more water is being added. Then this exercise was black plus a little bit of white, more white, more white, more white, more white, more white, etc. Right? Until basically it's all white. Okay. I also want to say I'm working in my watercolor book, and each assignment, each painting is a progression in the page. So I'm just turning the page, and we're going to work with orange today. So let's do this. Okay, so these are our tubes of paint, and they're made by a company called M. Graham, and they're really high quality. I didn't skimp at all in terms of this paint because it's really, let me help the camera focus, going to do well by us. But what we have to be careful of is not to overuse it. So basically we want to only squirt out what we need and be on the scant side. So I'm going to put a little bit of red on the side. And you can see it's sort of like the size of a pea. And now I'm going to put yellow on this side. Okay. Now let's talk about this. Red is a color that can go either warm or cool. But since we're going towards yellow, which is always warm, it's going to get turned to orange, and it's going to have basically a pendulum that swings from a yellowish orange to a reddish orange. And so I'm going to take my brush. I also have like a little water here and brush. I'm going to make sure my brush is clean. I also have paper towels, and I'm going to dunk my brush in, dry it off, but it's still a little bit on the wet side. I'm going to take my red, drag it out a little bit, clean my brush, and pull in a teeny bit of yellow. All right, it's not a big difference there, but let's see how it looks on the paper, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to take some straight red and make a mark here. Let's see how this works. Oops, too dry. Make a mark. Now I'm going to add a teeny bit of yellow and make a mark. Now a little more yellow and make a mark. You should be using your eyes as a gauge to see if each mark is more yellow in a subtle way, but definitely warming up. So I like to think of yellow as like the queen of heat. She makes everything warm. And you can see how with each brush stroke, I'm really just planting it and pulling. There's no petting it into place. Just adding yellow a little bit more each time and moving through these little chiclets. Those two are very similar. So I'm going to add a little more yellow and lay it over that one. I can see a difference. And as you can see, I'm sort of moving closer to the yellow. So I'm sort of making a smear of a fade from one color to the other. And what's really nice about this paint is I can revisit that even after it dries. It's not as lovely to paint with dried paint though. It will rehydrate with a little bit of water, but the biggest task I think for all of us is going to be putting less on our palette than more. You can always go back for more, but you cannot put the paint back in the tube. So you can see that if you think about this color in terms of heat, it's making me think of like mango. And then as we get kind of to this space where I don't have any clean yellow left, it's all been contaminated by the red. I'm going to go on in, clean my brush, dry my brush, and put a new spot of yellow where the red is not. Let's see if you can see that. Push it forward. It's over here. Okay, now I'm going to keep going. Oops. If my paint gets too dry, I have to add water, but you don't want it to be so watery that the pigment wouldn't be strong and the paper would be coming through. We did that as our first exercise to see what it will be like to lay in a value scale just using water. But in this case, I don't want the water to complicate what my paint mixture is. And anytime you feel like you can't stay clean enough, just dunk your brush, wiggle waggle it in the water, and then dry it with your paper towel. Okay, now yellow, because it is so fair, is very easily contaminable. And so that's it pretty much in our purest form. Right here. That's our purest, brightest, cleanest yellow. Okay, now while I have all of these colors laid out here on my palette, I'm going to put a tiny bit of white out. Let's see, I'm going to put it right here. It's hard to see white on white. It's over here. Now I'm going to do the whole thing again, just with the white added to these colors. So I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see and have some fresh paper. Okay. Okay. And this, I'm going to start it with the pure yellow. So let me see if I can get this to be here. Okay, I'm going to take this white. I'm going to bring it into that pure yellow. Let's see how I can get this to show. We'll go back to the way we were. Now this is an even lighter yellow. It's the clean yellow plus white. And now I'm just going to work my way backwards with a little bit of white mixed into the orange, the yellowish orange. I'm going to work my way, putting a little bit of white next to each one and mixing it in. A little bit of white. I'm going to move back in the same direction I came from. And this really takes like concentration, but you're going to see something's happening to the values. It's a little bit surprising, I hope. These are called tints or pastels, basically. It's white plus a color, which will take its pigmentation pale. So even though it's pale, it's moving more towards the red. So it's going to start to feel more pink. Basically, this is just pure red. With white, which is a beautiful pink. All right, so let's just do a little review. Pure red with a little bit of yellow added. More, moving this way. Then I started back over here again and went this way again until you can really see it starts to get lighter as it's moving this way. And here's the tipping point. This was the most yellow, the pure out of the tube yellow, where I started adding the white. And here's the whitish yellow, and it's going to get more orange, but the white has been added all the way along. And that's our exercise for today. Okay, with the extra paint that you have on this palette, I'd like you to try something. Use these colors on this palette in this empty page however you want to, okay? Until all of this pigmentation is used up and don't use any more. Okay, so this is a kind of a freebie space to make a painting however you'd like using just the colors left on your palette. Okay, let's see how that goes. How do I stop?